Here's one thing that Epictetus taught me. Don't worry about what's outside of your control. Only worry about what you can control. Now, I know that that's slightly impossible because some things are really important outside of your control and can harm you and so on. So let me explain a little bit more what I mean to make sense of this. And by the end of this video, I hope that you'll have found a neat and helpful and prudential and wise principle that will guide you and help you live a life that can be considered happy and good. Okay, so first of all, when Epictetus talks about what's under your power and what's not under your power, he's more or less thinking about how you respond to situations. There's sort of internal inclinations to what happens. So you're going for a walk and you come back and somebody skidded off the road and hit your hedges and your property is damaged. It happened. You couldn't have stopped it. There was nothing to do. It's out of your control. But here's what's in your control: how you respond. Will you rage? Will you be frustrated? Will you doom and gloom? Will you think about 1,000 things that maybe you could have done that would have fixed everything? What is it that you will, how will you respond? What is it that you will do in terms of a response? Epictetus says that's actually under your control. Yes, maybe you have to train yourself. Maybe it'll take habits. Maybe it'll take some few days to really think through or really gain the habits of self-control, but it's under your control. Let's say someone's cruel or mean to you, says something unkind to you. Do you have to clap back? Do you have to get angry? Do you have to get sad about it? One of the true things that you'll find in Epictetus' writings is that he emphasizes things like things are often much worse in our own mind than they are in reality. So when someone criticizes you, that's outside of you. It may be true or false, who knows exactly, but it's still outside of you. Your response could be, that's helpful, I should improve, or that seems off, or maybe I should talk to someone I trust, or maybe this is just a mean person, I can keep going on. You don't have to respond in such a way that your day is ruined. You can, in fact, be, in this narrow sense, impassible, unable to be perturbed by these external things. So that's the first thing to recognize. The first word, I suppose, would be what he means by what's under your power and what's not under your power. Now, the second part of this is equally important. You need to not be influenced by these things outside of you, sure, that kind of affect you. But in fact, you do need to train how your feelings and your emotions and your affections and whatever else you want to say. And so how do you do this? Well, he says you do this through more or less aligning yourself with the way things are, with what we might call natural law or something to that effect, the natural order of things. You get old, maybe you slow down a bit. You have an injury, you wait till you get healed. You have a job, you get up early and you get ready to go. Someone treats you poorly, you have self-control to get through the situation without yelling back. All that kind of stuff. It just makes sense because there's a cause and effect relationship. But it's important when it comes to your emotions. So C.S. Lewis brings up this example in The Abolition of Man, and he's speaking the same, more or less, similar tradition, Epictetus. And he says, look, you can have two people looking at one waterfall, and if memory serves, he's actually referring to Wordsmith or whoever it is, but I can't fully remember at this second, so just know that it's C.S. Lewis in The Abolition of Man in his first chapter, but I believe he's referring to Wordsmith or someone, I can't remember, someone like that. He says you can look at a waterfall, and one person can say, oh, it's pretty. Okay. And another person can say, that's sublime. Now, are both of those responses appropriate? Are they both merely just internal emotional feelings? And they're kind of the same thing for that reason. Or is one more appropriate than the other? And C.S. Lewis would say, well, they're not really emotions. Sublimity is not really an emotion. Pretty isn't really an emotion. What has happened is you've seen a waterfall that evokes a proper response. So a beautiful waterfall draws you into its grandeur, and you realize it's more than just meets the eye. It's a sign that points you upwards. It's sublime. To say that it's pretty is probably underselling the thing that it is. It's more of a trite way to put it. And so this observer maybe has a feeling, as Lewis says, of like humility, like you're kind of humbled or pushed down, like you just, because it's so big and wonderful. You might have a feeling of being less than or whatever it is, like you're just being caught up in wonder, perhaps, however you want to describe that. But you're calling it sublime because that's the way that external thing truly is. And then you align your feelings about that external thing based on the external reality. And you appropriately then feel as you know that you should based on what things are outside of you. That might sound incredibly complicated. So we talked about power and aligning yourself with nature. Those are the two things so far. There's a third thing I want to say, and just to kind of piece these two ideas together. You have to be very careful that you simultaneously can be impassible in the good sense. You don't let things outside of your control to stress you out and overwhelm you. Just like you're just going to waste time if you do. Like, what can worry do? Can it add an extra inch to your life? Can't. You just worry. You can't change what you can't change. We often think we can change more than we can, but we can't. Moving past the idea of aligning yourself naturally to external things, and then making sure you feel appropriate to the reality that's outside of you, not the reality that's inside of you. It's important. But it's a third thing we need to recognize, in that you may have some mistakes when you're trying to align yourself to the way things are outside of you. It takes work and practice and conversation, reflection. It takes philosophy. And, occasionally we live in a world in which things are not the way they should be. I think of Odysseus, for example, in the Odyssey. There's at least three huge themes in the Odyssey. One is hospitality. Hospitality's everywhere Odysseus goes. Will there be hospitality or not? Will he be murdered or will he be welcome? It's a huge crisis. Zeus wants you to be hospitable. It's good. It's viewed as a virtue, a civic virtue, because there are many foreigners or whatever that might visit your lands, and they don't have food or comfort or shelter, and there's no hotels like we would think of them. So you need hospitality really in term just to really live if you travel in certain respects. There's also a good theme of homecoming, nostros, where you return home, and it's home and family and love and all of that. So that all makes sense. Family is safe, wife is safe, the conditions for human flourishing are in the family. Hospitality makes a lot of sense. But there's a third kind of virtue that Odysseus emphasizes, in the book compliments him on, and that's cunning. And the way that works is because people are bad, can be good or bad, you need to have cunning and not really release information early, and sometimes lie. So Odysseus' Achilles' heel, you might say, is early on he gives his true name to Polyphemus, this monster. What is he called again? What's a monster with one eye in Greek mythology? Someone will tell me in the comments, because I just can't remember at this second. Not ogre, Cyclops, a Cyclops, who's actually a son of Poseidon. That causes a huge problem. He gave too much information. So he learns his lesson, but essentially he commits deceit, and it's not great, but it seems necessary, and therefore it's viewed as a nature. To be naturally successful, you have to commit deceit, and that's how you can be wise and cunning and so on. Well, by the time you get to Dante's Inferno, some centuries later, Dante, a Christian, says, actually, Odysseus is in hell because he's a liar. And you go, wait, what's going on here? Now, just to clarify, the Dante's Inferno is more about virtue than it is about reality. He's not saying literally he's in hell for this, but that's the point, is to say what's virtue and what's vice. And what you see in Dante's point of view is, look, because the world's not the way it should be, some people are vicious and bad. Sometimes then what you think is a virtue might be a vice. You might think lying to people and deceiving people is a virtue because it makes you survive better in a cruel and rotten world. But it really doesn't. It can perhaps, but there might be other ways to do the same thing. And what ends up happening is that you think you're aligning yourself with the way things are externally, pursuing virtue, lining your feelings up, maybe being proud or happy about or joyous about deceit, but you're actually scarring your conscience, and you're doing it because there's a vicious world out there. It's not the way it should be. So you need a revelation to clarify often what is right and what is wrong. That's why Christians believe that the Bible gives supernatural revelation to clarify these things. It tells you that there was a fall and corruption that happened in the world, and it also tells you what is true virtue when it can be a little bit ambiguous, like in the example of Odysseus, and it also gives you methods to kind of work through those things. All that to say, I want to, in summary, say there's something very important that you need to know in your life, and that is, don't stress, don't be anxious over things that you can't control. but focus on what you can control, namely your response to things, and then train yourselves to feel the right way by aligning your responses with the way things truly are outside of you. Let your feelings be directed and flow out of the objective reality of what things are. And finally, be careful as you're doing this, because there are vicious people in this world who are unkind, uncharitable, unloving, and you may think that you have to do a vicious thing to be virtuous. And ultimately, that is not true. It's not worth it to lose your soul to do a vicious thing, to have success in one day, but then to have lost it for the rest of your life. You want to get to the end of your life and have, because you have walked down the good life, and by good I mean like virtuous, good, real meaty good life, so that by the end of it you can reflect back and say, yes, I've lived a blessed or happy life. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and watch this other one that's right above my shoulder.